The night the palace opened its gates for the winter moon ball, the kingdom believed it was celebrating unity. 7 territories, 7 rival packs. One hall built of black marble and silver veins, filled with enough gold and perfume to disguise centuries of blood beneath it. And in the lowest corridor beneath that celebration, a servant girl collapsed. She did not fall like the noble-born did when they fainted from delicate emotion or too much wine. She folded as if something inside her simply gave up holding her together. Her knees struck stone first, then her palms. Then her forehead hovered just above the floor as though even gravity hesitated to finish the act. Her name was Elone. No one important ever used it. To the palace, she was just another servant assigned to the lower kitchens, another pair of hands moving trays through corridors where nobles never looked down. Thin from hunger that never fully left her body, she had learned to survive on the edges of sight. Silence was her shield. Obedience was her currency. But tonight, silence broke her open. Above her, through layers of stone and celebration, something shifted in the air. Not sound, not light, something older. Something that pressed against her bones like a memory she had never lived. Her fingers curled against the cold floor. And then the mark burned. It started at her collarbone, deep beneath skin that had never carried anything but exhaustion. A heat like molten silver poured through her veins in a single violent pulse. Her breath snapped short, her throat locked. The world tilted sideways as if reality itself had lost balance. She tried to stand. Her body refused. Not weakness, not fatigue, recognition. Far above her, in the grand ballroom, the Alpha King of Vidoria turned his head. Kalen Blackmere did not move like other men. He did not need urgency. The world moved for him before he decided to follow it. But something had shifted across his senses like a blade drawn through still water. Scent first. Not perfume, not blood. Something impossible. He inhaled once. The entire hall seemed to forget how to breathe with him. Gold eyes narrowed beneath the crown of shadowed hair, and for the first time in years, the Alpha King stopped listening to the council speaking at his side. "Your Majesty," one of them began, voice careful, rehearsed. The Northern Pack requests Kalen did not answer. His attention was already gone. Across the ballroom, nobles continued their laughter, unaware that something had just fractured in the structure of the night. Chandeliers of crystal and moonlight flickered faintly, as though reacting to a pressure none of them could see. Then his voice cut through it. "One of you has been marked." The words were not loud. They did not need to be. Every conversation in the hall collapsed into silence, as if it had been pulled out by the roots. Glasses stopped mid-air. Dancers froze mid-step. Even the music stuttered into nothing. The Alpha King descended from the dais, each step measured, controlled, but beneath the control, something vast moved. Something restrained with the discipline of a creature that had learned the cost of losing itself. Servants lowered their gaze instinctively. Nobles stepped back. No one asked what he meant, because when an Alpha King speaks of marking, the realm listens with fear before curiosity ever has a chance. Below the palace, Elone dragged herself backward across the stone floor. Her breath came in shallow bursts, her vision fractured at the edges. She could feel something inside her trying to rise through her skin, something bright and unbearable pressing against the boundaries of her body. It did not feel like power. It felt like being remembered by something too large to fit inside her life. Her hand struck a wall. She forced herself upright, using it, trembling, sweat cold against her spine. The corridor around her seemed different now. Shadows deeper, air heavier. Every sound too sharp, too close. And then she heard it. Not footsteps, a presence. Somewhere above, the Alpha King had stopped walking. Kaelin stood at the edge of the ballroom corridor where servants were forbidden to linger. The air here was thinner, colder, stripped of perfume and ceremony. His senses stretched outward, searching through stone and distance for the source of what had just torn through him. There, faint, below. Not a threat, not an enemy. Something that made his wolf go still in a way it never did for danger. His jaw tightened once. The council followed at a careful distance, uncertainty finally breaking through their composure. "What is it you feel, Your Majesty?" one of them asked. Kaelin did not turn. "Mine," he said. The word landed like an execution order. Below, Elone's knees gave out again. She caught herself against the wall, but her strength was gone. The heat inside her had become something relentless now. No longer a pulse, but a steady tide rising through every part of her. Her vision filled with flickers of silver light she could not explain. And then the whisper came, not spoken, known, as if something inside her had always been waiting for this exact moment. "Mate." Her breath shattered. No, that was impossible. Servants did not have mates like that. Not Alpha Kings, not destiny-marked bonds that rewrote kingdoms. She was nothing. She had always been nothing. But the mark on her skin burned brighter in answer to her denial. Above her, footsteps stopped directly overhead. Kaelin Blackmere stood above the corridor that separated him from the source of the bond. Stone. Distance. Nothing that mattered to what he was sensing. His hand lifted slightly, fingers flexing once as though resisting the instinct to tear the world apart to reach what he could feel just beneath it. The bond pulled. Hard. His wolf answered before his mind did. A low growl vibrated through his chest, quiet but absolute. The kind of sound that ended wars before they began. Behind him, a council member spoke too sharply. "Your Majesty, whatever this is, it may be a provocation, a trick. The Van Thorn line has been—" Kaelin turned his head slightly. "Not fully, just enough." The councilman stopped breathing. "I do not care what it is," Kaelin said. His voice lowered, dangerously calm. "I care what it belongs to." Below, Elone finally pushed herself into a standing position. It was not grace. It was survival. Her hand pressed against her chest where the heat had concentrated, where something beneath her skin was now glowing faintly through torn fabric. Silver light, faint but undeniable. Her breath shook. Her entire life had been about staying unseen, but something had just found her anyway, and it was not letting go. Above her, the Alpha King took one step toward the descent corridor that led down into the palace depths. One step, then another, each one tightening the invisible thread between them until the air itself seemed to strain. Elone felt it like pressure behind her ribs, like a pull, like inevitability. And then, in the deepest part of her mind, a truth settled with terrifying clarity. Whatever she was, she had never been alone, and the Alpha King above her was only just beginning to understand what had been placed in his path. Kaelin Blackmere descended into the lower corridors of the palace without slowing his pace. Stone swallowed sound here. Torchlight burned in narrow intervals along the walls, casting long shadows that bent strangely as he passed. The deeper he went, the more the air changed, as if the palace itself was holding its breath in anticipation of something it had not seen in centuries. Behind him, the council followed at a controlled distance that slowly widened with every step he took. Not from permission, from instinct. Something about the Alpha King's silence was more dangerous than his command. Kalen did not look back. His senses were locked forward now, stretched along an invisible thread that tightened with every meter he descended. It was no longer just scent. It was presence. Recognition layered over recognition, like a truth trying to surface through centuries of concealment. Mine. The word was no longer spoken inside him. It was carved into him. Below, Ilone moved through the corridor like a body trying to remember how to belong to itself. Her hand stayed pressed to her chest. The silver light beneath her skin pulsed with each heartbeat, brighter now, less controlled, as though whatever had been bound inside her for years had finally been given permission to wake. She staggered once, caught herself, then forced herself forward. She did not know why she was moving, only that standing still felt worse. Stillness made the pull sharper. Stillness made her aware of how impossible her own body had become. Her reflection flickered in a darkened, polished stone panel along the wall. She stopped. For the first time, she saw it. Her eyes were not entirely brown anymore. A thin fracture of silver ran through the iris of her right eye like a blade of moonlight breaking through earth. It flickered when she breathed, shifted when she blinked. Her breath caught. No, she whispered. The word sounded too small for what was happening. Above her, Kalen paused at the top of a narrow staircase leading further down into the servant levels. He felt it then, a spike in the bond. Fear, not directed at him, from her. His jaw tightened. Something primal in him surged forward, pressing against restraint like a living thing testing the walls of a cage. The air around him deepened. The torches along the corridor dimmed for half a heartbeat, as if reacting to his emotional shift. Behind him, one of the council members finally spoke again, voice carefully measured. "Your Majesty, if this is a bonded emergence, protocol requires Kalen's head turned slightly. That was all." The man stopped mid-sentence. "You think I require protocol?" Kalen said. Quiet. Absolute. The council member lowered his gaze instantly. Kalen continued downward. Below, Ilone pressed herself against the wall again as the sensation inside her shifted. It was no longer just heat. It was awareness. Something vast was waking inside her, and with it came fragments of perception that did not belong to her body alone. She felt stone above her. She felt distance collapsing. She felt something moving toward her that did not walk like a man alone. It moved like inevitability, given form. Her breath broke, and then she heard it. Footsteps, not distant, close, too close. Ilone turned sharply toward the far end of the corridor. Darkness pooled there where the torchlight failed to reach. A shape moved within it, cutting through shadow, as if shadow had no permission to touch him. Gold eyes emerged first, then the outline of a man carved from control and restraint. He did not hurry. He did not need to. Each step carried the weight of command without effort. Ilone's body reacted before her mind could. She stepped back, once, then again. Her back hit the wall. The silver in her eyes flared brighter, responding to something in him she could not understand yet. Kalen stopped 3 paces away. The distance between them was nothing, and everything. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air itself seemed to compress between them, tightening as if the world recognized the importance of this singular point in time. Kalen's gaze moved over her slowly, not like a man assessing a servant, like a force recognizing its equal, her thin frame, the torn fabric at her collar, the tremor in her hands she was trying to hide. The way her chin lifted anyway, even pressed against a wall, even cornered by something she did not understand. His wolf surged hard against restraint. A sound almost left him. Low, possessive, controlled only at the last possible moment. Elin swallowed. Her voice came out sharper than she intended. If you are here to drag me back upstairs, you are mistaken. I belong to no one. The words should have been nothing. Insignificant defiance from a servant girl in a palace corridor. But Kalen's expression changed, subtly, like something inside him had just confirmed itself. You belong to the mark, he said. Elon's breath stuttered. I don't have, she stopped, because her hand lifted without permission, pulled the fabric at her collar aside, and the silver glow beneath her skin was no longer faint. It was visible, alive, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat like a second source of life beneath flesh. Her throat went dry. Kalen stepped closer. One pace, then stopped again, as if forcing himself to remain within control of his own body. The bond snapped tighter between them. Elon felt it like a thread yanking through her chest. She gasped. Her knees almost buckled. Kalen's hand lifted slightly, then stopped midair. A restraint so visible it almost looked like pain. Do not, Elon said quickly, voice breaking at the edges. Touch me. The words hit him like impact. Kalen froze, not from command, from choice. The corridor fell into a silence so deep it felt carved into the stone itself. Elon's breath came uneven. She hated the way her body reacted to his presence. The heat that surged whenever he was near. The strange pull that made her feel like stepping away was harder than stepping forward. But fear still held the louder truth. You are wrong, she said, forcing the words out. There is nothing between us. I am a servant. You are whatever you are. That is all. Kalen's eyes darkened slightly, not with anger, with recognition of something inevitable. You feel it, he said. It was not a question. Elon shook her head once, but the motion was weak, unconvincing even to her. I feel nothing, she lied. The bond answered immediately. A sharp pulse of heat surged through her chest, and she clenched her jaw to stop herself from reacting outwardly. Kalen saw it. Of course he saw it. His gaze sharpened. There it is, he said quietly. Elon's fingers curled into the fabric at her side. What is it you think you see? She demanded. Kalen stepped closer again. This time, he did not stop. Close enough now that she could feel the heat of him through the air. Close enough that her breath shortened without permission. Close enough that her body betrayed her instincts by not moving away. Truth, he said. The word landed between them like a blade laid flat. Elon's voice dropped lower. I have no truth for you. Kalen's jaw tightened. For a fraction of a second, something unguarded passed through his expression. Not softness, something more dangerous. Restraint on the edge of breaking. I have been searching for you, he said. Elon blinked once. That should not have made sense. I don't know you. You do, Kalen replied. His voice lowered further, and for the first time, it was not command, it was certainty. You just do not remember yet. The silver in her eyes flickered violently, and somewhere deep inside her, something answered him. Kalen's words lingered in the air long after he stopped speaking. You just do not remember yet. Elon forced herself to breathe through the weight of them. The corridor felt smaller now, the stone walls closer, the torchlight too dim to trust. Everything in her body screamed that she should run, but her legs refused to obey cleanly. They trembled instead, locked between instinct and something far more invasive. The bond. It was not a thought she had chosen. It was a sensation she could not ignore anymore. Kaelin stood motionless in front of her, but stillness did not mean absence. It meant control. Every line of his body held the tension of something restrained at enormous cost. His gaze did not leave her face, not even for a moment. Elone swallowed hard. "You are mistaken," she said again, but the words lacked conviction now. "I have lived here my entire life. I have no connection to you. No history. Nothing." Kaelin's expression did not change, but something in his eyes sharpened. "Lies are not your language," he said. Elone's breath caught. That should have angered her. Instead, it unsettled her in a way she could not explain. As if he had named something she had never admitted even to herself. She lifted her chin anyway. "I am not lying." The bond reacted instantly. Heat surged through her chest in a violent pulse, sharper than before. Her knees threatened to give out. She pressed a hand to the wall to steady herself, jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. Kaelin saw it. His nostrils flared once. A subtle shift, but unmistakable. Recognition deepening. "You feel it again," he said. Elone's voice came out strained. "Stop saying that." "Why?" Kaelin replied, voice low. "Because it is true." Silence pressed between them. Not empty silence. Full of something alive. Elone forced herself to look at him properly now. Not just the shape of him, not just the danger in his presence, but the way the air itself bent around him. He did not look like anyone she had ever been allowed to look at directly. Gold eyes held steady against hers. Not scanning, not judging, claiming. The thought came uninvited, and she rejected it immediately. "No," she whispered under her breath, more to herself than him. Kaelin took a step closer. The distance between them collapsed further. Elone pressed back against the wall instinctively, but there was nowhere left to go. His voice softened, though nothing about him became less dangerous. "You are frightened." It was not a question. Elone laughed once, short and sharp. "That is your conclusion. It is what I smell." Her body went still. The words landed differently than they should have, not because they were threatening, but because they were accurate in a way she could not defend against. Kaelin's gaze dropped briefly to her collar, where the faint silver mark pulsed beneath her skin, then back to her eyes. "You were never meant to live unseen," he said. Elone's throat tightened. "That is exactly what I was meant to do." Something flickered across his expression. Not disagreement, disbelief. As if the idea itself offended a truth he had already accepted. Before he could respond, the bond shifted again. This time, it was not heat, it was sensation. Elone gasped sharply. A wave of emotion hit her from nowhere, not her own, not controlled, not understandable. It crashed through her like a foreign tide. Power, control, a deep, burning restraint layered over something far more violent beneath. And underneath that, something else. Recognition. Hunger. Not hunger for her body. Hunger for something she could not name without understanding it first. Her breath broke. "What is that?" she whispered, hand gripping her chest. Kaelin's jaw tightened. His control fractured for a fraction of a second. "You felt it," he said. Elone shook her head rapidly. "No, I did not ask to feel anything from you." Kaelin stepped closer again. This time, there was no stopping him in the space between them. He stopped just in front of her. Close enough that she had to tilt her head slightly to keep eye contact. Close enough that her body went painfully aware of every inch of distance remaining. "I am not doing this to you," he said quietly. Elone's voice rose, edged with panic now. "Then stop it." Kaelin did not move. "I cannot." The honesty in it silenced her more effectively than force would have. Elone stared at him. What does that mean? Kaelin's gaze held hers steadily. It means what you feel is not something I am sending. It is something that exists between us. Her breathing turned uneven. That is impossible. No, he said. A pause. Then, more quietly. It is ancient. The word settled into her like weight. Ancient. Her fingers tightened against her chest again, where the mark pulsed harder now, as if reacting to the word itself. Kaelin watched it carefully. Show me, he said. Elone froze. No, it came out immediately, instinctive, protective. Something in her resisted the idea of him seeing more of her than he already had, even though she did not understand why. Kaelin's expression shifted slightly. Not frustration, patience. A controlled kind of patience that felt more dangerous than anger. I am not asking you to surrender, he said. Elone let out a sharp breath. That is exactly what it sounds like. It is not. His voice lowered. I am asking you to understand what you are. Elone shook her head once. I already know what I am. Kaelin's eyes narrowed slightly. You are wrong. The certainty in it struck her harder than anything else he had said. Her voice hardened in response. And you are arrogant. For the first time, something almost like emotion flickered across his face. Not offense, something closer to faint approval. You push against me, he said. Elone did not look away. I push against anyone who tries to decide my life for me. A silence followed, not heavy, measuring. Kaelin studied her more closely now, as if reassessing something he thought he already understood. Then, unexpectedly, he stepped back half a pace. The distance created space where there had been none. Elone blinked, confused by the shift. Kaelin's voice lowered. You are not wrong to resist, he said. That caught her off guard. Her expression tightened. I am not resisting you. I am rejecting this entire situation. Kaelin's gaze did not waver. Even if it is written into your blood. Elone's breath stalled. That phrase. It made something inside her twist in response. Before she could respond, a sound echoed faintly from the upper corridor. Footsteps. Many. Approaching. Kaelin's attention shifted instantly, his entire posture changing in a way that made the air feel heavier. Elone noticed immediately. What is that? She asked sharply. Kaelin did not look away from the direction of the sound. Council. Her stomach tightened. Are they coming here? Yes. Her pulse spiked. Kaelin finally looked back at her, and for the first time since he entered the corridor, his expression carried something unmistakable. Decision. You will come with me, he said. Elone's body reacted before her mind accepted the words. No, she said immediately. The syllables snapped through the corridor like a blade striking stone. Kaelin did not react to the volume. He reacted to the meaning. His gaze settled on her with quiet intensity, as if measuring the resistance itself rather than the refusal. You do not have a choice in what comes next, he said. Elone's breath hitched. That is exactly what I said I would not accept. The distant footsteps above grew louder. Multiple voices now, layered, controlled, but urgent in a way that suggested political pressure rather than casual curiosity. The council was descending. Kaelin shifted slightly, angling his body between Elone and the direction of the sound, without fully turning his back on her. It was subtle, but it changed everything about the space. The corridor suddenly felt enclosed, protected, and controlled all at once. Elone noticed. Her voice sharpened. What are they going to do? Kaelin's answer came without hesitation. Take you. The word struck harder than it should have. Elone's fingers curled tightly into the fabric at her side. Take me where? Kaylin's eyes flicked briefly to the mark at her collarbone, then back to her face. Where I should never have allowed you to remain unseen. Her breath stuttered. I do not belong anywhere near you, she said. For the first time, something in Kaylin's expression shifted. Not anger, not irritation, control tightening further. You do not understand what you are saying, he replied. I understand perfectly, she shot back. You think I am something you can assign meaning to because of a mark I did not ask for. The footsteps above reached the staircase. The council was close now. Kaylin's voice dropped lower. That mark is not assigned. Elone shook her head once, refusing the weight of his certainty. It is still not enough to dictate my life. Kaylin stepped closer again. The movement was controlled, but it erased what little space remained between them. Elone forced herself not to retreat. The air between them felt charged, unstable. You are going to be taken, Kaylin said quietly, and you will not survive what they intend to do with you if they see what I see. Elone's throat tightened. And what exactly do you see? Kaylin did not answer immediately. That hesitation mattered. It was the first time he had paused since finding her. When he spoke again, his voice was lower. Something that was never meant to be contained in a servant's life. Elone's expression tightened. That is not an answer. It is the only one that matters right now. The council voices were now clearly audible above them. They were calling his name, carefully, politely, but with an edge beneath the politeness that suggested urgency disguised as protocol. Elone's heart rate increased. You cannot just decide this, she said quickly. I will not be moved like an object because you feel something you do not understand. Kaylin's gaze sharpened slightly. I understand more than you think. She let out a short, disbelieving breath. That is not reassuring. For the first time, something like restrained frustration passed through his expression. Not at her, at time, at pressure, at whatever history was closing in faster than he could fully control. The council reached the bottom of the staircase, voices now at the edge of the corridor. Your Majesty, one of them called. We have followed the emergent signature. It is critical that we assess the source immediately. Kaylin did not look away from Elone. Assess, he repeated quietly. Elone's body tensed. The word felt wrong. Medical, political, ownership disguised as evaluation. Kaylin's jaw tightened slightly. Then he made a decision. He turned slightly toward the corridor entrance, still blocking Elone from direct view. His voice changed when he spoke. It did not rise. It did not need to. Leave. The single word hit the corridor like a sealed command. The air shifted. The council presence hesitated immediately. Elone felt it even without seeing them. A ripple of instinctive obedience reacting to something deeper than authority. But one voice did not retreat. Your Majesty, it began carefully. The emergence reading is inconsistent with any known noble line. If there is an unregistered carrier of such power within the palace, Kaylin's voice cut through again. Colder now. I said, leave. Silence, then movement, reluctant, measured, with restraint that masked resistance. The council did not fully withdraw, but they stopped advancing. Elone exhaled slowly, unaware she had been holding her breath. Kaylin turned back to her immediately. The shift in him was subtle, but noticeable. Less external pressure, more focused intent. They will not leave for long, he said. Elone's voice was tight. Then let them come. Kaylin's gaze narrowed slightly. That is not a survival strategy. I am not surviving anything by running with you, she replied. The bond surged again in response to her defiance. Heat flared through her chest, sharper this time. She gasped and pressed a hand to her collarbone. Kalen saw it instantly. His voice lowered. It is reacting to conflict. Alone glared at him through the discomfort. It is reacting to you. Kalen did not deny it. That silence was more dangerous than confirmation. Above them, the council shifted again, impatient now. Elone looked toward the stairs briefly, then back at Kalen. You have not explained anything, she said quickly. You appear in a hidden corridor, claim something I cannot verify, and now expect me to follow you into whatever situation this is. Kalen's expression softened only slightly, not emotionally, strategically. You are correct, he said. That surprised her enough to still her anger for a fraction of a second. Then he continued. I have not explained it because explanation requires time, and time is what we do not have. Alone's voice sharpened again. That is not my problem. It is now, Kalen said. The certainty in it tightened the space between them again. Alone's breath shook slightly. You cannot say that and expect me to accept it. Kalen stepped closer again, reducing the distance to almost nothing. His voice lowered further. I am not asking you to accept anything. A pause. I am asking you to live. The words landed differently, not as command, as fact. Elone stared at him. Something inside her resisted it on principle, but another part of her, deeper and less controlled, reacted to the weight behind it. Above them, the council prepared to descend again. Kalen's attention shifted briefly toward the stairs, then back to her. A shift in decision formed in his expression. You will come with me, he said again, this time softer, not less firm, more certain. And you will hate me for it later if you wish. Elone's voice was quieter now. I already dislike you. A flicker passed through his gaze, almost imperceptible. Good, he said. That confused her. Good, yes. Another pause. Then he added, quieter still. It means you are thinking clearly? Before she could respond, the council began descending again, this time faster. No more patience. Kalen's hand moved slightly, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the heat of his control in the air. We are out of time, he said. Elone's pulse spiked. What are you going to do? Kalen looked at her directly, and for the first time, there was something unmistakably final in his voice. Claim what is already mine. Elone's breath stopped at his words. Claim what is already mine. The sentence did not echo. It settled. Heavy, absolute, final. The corridor seemed to tilt under it, as if the palace itself recognized the shift. Her body reacted before her mind could form resistance. You do not get to say that, she said sharply. Kalen did not move. I already have. Footsteps from the council drew closer, filling the lower stairwell with controlled pressure. Neither of them broke eye contact. I am not a possession, Elone said. I did not say you were, Kalen replied. You implied it. I stated a fact. Her breath left in a short, disbelieving sound. That is how you speak about things you own. For the first time, something in him tightened. If I thought you were something to own, you would not be standing here, he said, and you would not be speaking at all. That truth disrupted her certainty. Elone hesitated. You are still speaking because I have not decided what you are yet, he added. That is not better, she said quietly. It is honest. Shadows stretched into the corridor as the council arrived. 3 figures, silver-lined armor, controlled authority. The leader's gaze locked on Kalen. We followed the emergent signature, he said. Leave? Kalen replied. It is not protocol to ignore a confirmed emergence. Elone felt it then. Attention. Directed at her. She stepped back instinctively. Kalen shifted immediately, placing himself between her and their gaze without touching her. There is someone with you, the council leader said. Yes, Kalen answered. Identify her. Silence. Elone's heartbeat rose. No, Kalen said. That is not permitted under emergence law. Then rewrite your law, Kalen replied. The air tightened. Torches flickered, as if reacting to something older than authority. She is an unknown carrier, the council said. That is a breach. She is not contained, Kalen said. The word struck Elone hard. Contained. She inhaled sharply. You will not look at her, Kalen added. The council hesitated, then pressed forward. Confirm identity. She is not yours to confirm. Elone's voice broke through before she could stop it. Stop talking about me like I am not here. Every gaze shifted, instantly. Kalen's restraint tightened. Heat surged through Elone's chest, sharper now, almost painful. Her hand pressed against the mark beneath her collarbone. Silver light flared beneath her skin, visible. The council froze. That is not a standard mark, the council leader said. Do not speak about her, Kalen warned, but the council was no longer listening. The signature matches ancient records, he muttered. Elone's voice sharpened. What records? The council leader stepped forward. Kalen moved instantly, blocking him. One more step, Kalen said quietly, and you will regret it. The council stopped, but his gaze stayed fixed on her. There was a prophecy, he said. A lunar-marked child. Silence fell. I am not your prophecy, Elone said. That mark disagrees, the council replied. Cold spread through the corridor. This is over, Kalen said. If she is what we believe, she must be registered. No one will take her, Kalen said. That is not your decision alone. It is when it concerns her. The bond surged again, stronger. Not just heat now, pull. Elone's breath shook, and in that moment, she understood. Whatever she was becoming, it was already tied to him, and it was already too late to deny it. The word prophecy did not leave the corridor. It stayed there, hanging in the air like something sharp enough to cut whoever tried to ignore it. Elone felt it settle under her skin in a way that made her stomach twist. Not because she believed it, because the council did, and because Kalen did not deny it fast enough. Her voice came out low, controlled with effort. I am not part of your history. The council member did not look away from her. You are standing inside it? Kalen moved instantly, not toward Elone, toward the council. One step forward, and the entire corridor changed temperature. The air tightened, as if the palace itself recognized escalation and braced for impact. You will not speak to her again, Kalen said. The council member held his ground, though the strain in his posture became visible. Your Majesty, if this is what we believe it is, then she is not a private matter. She is a sovereign-level emergence event. Elone flinched at the word sovereign level. They made her feel less like a person and more like a condition. Kalen's voice lowered. She is standing right there. A beat, and you will address her as such. Silence followed. Not obedience. Resistance held back by hierarchy. Elone watched it all carefully. The way they measured her without seeing her. The way Kalen stood between them and her like a barrier made of something more than authority. Something closer to possession. That thought made her chest tighten again. The bond responded immediately. Heat surged under her collarbone. She pressed a hand against it, jaw tightening. I am leaving, she said suddenly. The words cut through everything. All three council members turned slightly. Kalen did not move, but his attention sharpened instantly. "You are not," he said quietly. Ellen's eyes snapped to him. "I did not ask permission. I know. Then I am informing you." Kaelin stepped closer. Close enough that the bond flared again, sharper now, like it was reacting to proximity as much as emotion. "You cannot leave this corridor," he said. Elone let out a short, bitter breath. "Watch me." She pushed off the wall. One step. That was all she managed before the bond reacted violently. Pain, not physical injury. Recognition overload. Her vision blurred for half a second and her knees buckled. Kaelin caught her instantly. Not fully. Just enough to stop her from hitting the ground. His hand was firm at her arm, stabilizing her without force. The contact sent a shock through both of them. Elone gasped sharply. Kaelin went still. The council member noticed immediately. "So it is confirmed," he said quietly. Kaelin did not look away from Elone. "Do not speak," he said. Elone steadied herself, pulling her arm back immediately once her balance returned. "You keep doing that," she said sharply. Kaelin's gaze flicked to her. "Doing what? Touching me like I belong in your space." A flicker passed through his expression. Not guilt. Containment tightening further. "I prevented you from falling," he said. "I did not fall," she corrected. "You were about to." "That is not the same thing." Kaelin's jaw tightened slightly. It was at this moment. The council member interrupted before the exchange could continue. "Your Majesty, the mark on her body is active." Elone stiffened. "I am not a subject for discussion." The council member finally addressed her directly. "You do not understand what is happening to you." Elone laughed once. Short, unamused. "That is the only thing I understand clearly." The council member took a cautious step forward. Kaelin moved instantly again, blocking him. The motion was sharp enough that the torches flickered. "She is not to be approached," Kaelin said. The council member hesitated, then lowered his voice. "If she is truly bonded, then your proximity is already influencing the activation." Elone's breath slowed slightly. "That is not true," Kaelin said immediately, but the pause before it had been too small to ignore. Elone noticed. Her gaze sharpened. "What does that mean?" she asked. Kaelin did not answer immediately. That silence told her more than words could have. The council member pressed carefully. "Your Majesty, the bond signature matches historical records of forced emergence pairing. If you remain in close proximity during activation, it could accelerate destabilization." Elone's stomach tightened. "I am not unstable," she said sharply. The council member did not look at her. "That is not what I said." Kaelin's voice dropped dangerously. "You will stop analyzing her." The council member held his ground. "If she triggers full awakening in this corridor, we may not be able to contain the resulting energy discharge." Elone felt cold suddenly. Energy discharge. Kaelin turned slightly toward her. A fraction of something softer passed through his expression. Then it was gone. "Do not listen to them," he said. Elone's voice was quieter now. "Then explain it yourself." A pause. Kaelin's gaze held hers, and for the first time since finding her, he looked like he was choosing between truths. Not hiding them. Choosing which would not destroy her. "You are not human in the way they understand it," he said finally. Elone went still. "That is not an answer. It is the beginning of one." The council member spoke again. "She is carrying dormant lunar lineage signatures. If the seal breaks fully, she will not remain in a controlled state without anchoring." Elone's head turned sharply. "Seal." Kaelin's jaw tightened. The council member continued. "The mark is not merely recognition. It is suppression layered over inheritance. Silence fell again, heavier this time. Elone looked at Kaelin. Slowly, carefully. What did he just say? Kaelin did not answer immediately. That was the answer. Elone stepped back instinctively. No, she said quietly. The bond reacted again, a pulse of heat stronger than before. She winced. Kaelin noticed immediately. His voice softened slightly. Stop resisting it blindly. Elone snapped her gaze to him. I am not resisting it blindly. I am resisting everything about this conversation. The council member spoke again. If she is left unanchored during full activation, she will collapse under her own output. Elone's voice broke slightly. Stop talking about me like I am a weapon. Kaelin finally stepped forward again. Closer, but slower now. Controlled. I am not calling you a weapon, he said. A pause. I am telling you, you are powerful enough to be destroyed by what is inside you. The corridor went silent again. Elone's breath shook. That is not my problem, she whispered. Kaelin's gaze held hers. It is mine. The words landed differently this time. Not ownership, responsibility, something heavier, something more dangerous. Elone's voice dropped. You do not even know me. Kaelin's answer came immediately. I know what you are, a beat, and I know what happens if I do not keep you alive long enough for you to understand it yourself. The council member shifted slightly. This confirms the necessity of relocation, he said. Kaelin's head turned slightly toward him. The air changed again. Sharper. Final. She is not going anywhere with you, Kaelin said. The council member hesitated. Then, what do you propose? Kaelin turned back to Elone, and for the first time, the weight of his decision became visible. You come with me, he said quietly. A pause, and I teach you how to survive what you are becoming. Elone stared at him. Her voice came out thin. And if I refuse? Kaelin did not hesitate. Then you will not survive it alone. Silence followed. The kind that did not wait for permission. The kind that decided things anyway. Elone looked between Kaelin and the council, then down at the faint silver glow beneath her skin, then back at him, and for the first time since she woke in that corridor, her voice was quieter than anger. What am I? She asked. Kaelin did not answer immediately. That pause changed the entire corridor. It was no longer argument versus authority. It became truth versus exposure. Elone felt it in her chest first, like something tightening around a wound she had not known was there until it was touched. The council waited. Even they seemed aware that whatever came next would not be reversible. Kaelin's gaze did not leave her. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower than before, stripped of command. You are the reason the moon was feared before it was worshipped. Elone's breath caught. That sentence did not make sense in any language she understood. I do not understand that, she said carefully. Kaelin stepped closer again. Not aggressively, deliberately, like a man choosing to stand inside fire instead of watching it from a distance. You were not born into the world they told you about, he said. You were placed inside it. Elone shook her head once. That is not an explanation. It is the closest thing to truth you will get before you stop resisting what your body already knows. Her fingers tightened at her sides. My body does not know anything, she said sharply. It reacts. That is not the same. The bond surged again in response to her denial. Heat lanced through her chest, sharper now, deeper, like something answering from inside her rather than outside her. She gasped and bent slightly, hand pressing hard against her collarbone. Kaelin moved instantly, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel his presence stabilizing the air around her. The council member watched closely. She is reacting to proximity, he said quietly. Kaelin did not look away from Elone. She is reacting to truth, he corrected. Elone lifted her head slowly. Sweat had formed along her hairline now. Not from exhaustion, from internal pressure she could not name. What truth? She asked, voice tight. Kaelin's jaw tightened. You were marked at birth, he said. Silence struck immediately. Elone went still. The words did not register at first. Then they did. And when they did, something inside her body reacted violently. No, she said immediately. Too fast, too sharp. Kaelin did not flinch. You were, he repeated. The council member stepped slightly forward. Lunar origin imprinting is not theoretical, he added. It is recorded in pre-council texts, rare, controlled, forbidden. Ellen's head turned sharply toward him. I am a servant, she said. I grew up in kitchens and corridors. I cleaned floors. I carried trays. I was hungry every day of my life. Do not tell me I was marked at birth for anything except neglect. The council member hesitated. Kaelin's voice cut in before the man could respond. That is exactly why it worked. Elone froze. Kaelin continued, voice controlled but heavy. They made you invisible, a beat, and then they made sure you would never look for what you are. Elone felt something cold spread under her skin. That is insane, she said quietly. Kaelin stepped closer again, close enough that she could feel the heat of him clearly now. It is strategic, he corrected. The bond surged again. This time, Elone did not just feel heat. She felt something else underneath it. A pull, directional, like something inside her recognizing him even when her mind rejected it. She staggered slightly. Kaelin steadied his stance but did not touch her. You are not unstable, he said quietly. You are awakening. The council member spoke again, more cautious now. If she was suppressed at birth, the seal would have been layered into her identity field. Servitude placement would act as camouflage. Low visibility environment reduces detection risk. Elone's voice rose slightly. Stop explaining me like I am an object that was stored somewhere. Kaelin's gaze sharpened slightly toward the council. You will not speak of her as containment, he said again. The council member lowered his gaze briefly. Then how do you classify her? He asked. Kaelin did not hesitate this time. He looked at Elone and answered. She is my mate. The corridor went completely silent. Even the torches seemed to pause. Elone's breath stopped. No, she said immediately. It came out instinctive. Rejected before comprehension. Kaelin did not change his expression. You feel it, he said. I feel something wrong, she shot back. The bond responded instantly. Heat surged again, sharper than before. Elone gasped, pressing her hand harder against her chest. Stop doing that, she said sharply. Kaelin's voice lowered. I am not doing anything. Then stop being near me. That does not change it. The council member looked between them carefully. If the bond is active at this level, he said quietly, then separation will destabilize her further. Elone snapped her head toward him. I am not unstable. He did not respond. That silence confirmed everything she hated hearing. Kaelin stepped slightly closer again. Listen to me, he said quietly. Elone shook her head. No, you are not a servant. I am. No. Her voice rose. You do not get to decide that. Kaelin's gaze sharpened slightly. I am not deciding it, he said. I am recognizing it. A pause. And so is your body. Elone's breath shook. That means nothing. It means everything, he said. The bond surged again. This time, Elone felt something different inside it. Not heat, memory, a flicker. Not visual, emotional. a sensation of being seen without ever having been touched. She flinched violently. "What was that?" she demanded. Kaylin's eyes narrowed slightly. "You felt it too. I do not know what I felt." The council member spoke quietly. Residual imprint resonance. If her birthmark was suppressed, exposure to bonded counterpart may trigger partial retrieval. Ilone's voice broke slightly. "Stop saying things like that." Kaylin stepped closer again, now close enough that there was almost no space left between them. His voice dropped. "You are not remembering because you forgot," he said. A pause. "You are remembering because it is safe enough for your body to begin resisting the suppression." Elone shook her head. "That does not make sense." "It does," he said. "A beat. If you stop fighting every sensation as if it is an enemy." Silence again, this one heavier. Elone looked at him, really looked now, not at authority, not at threat, at certainty. And beneath that certainty, something restrained, something not fully controlled. Her voice lowered. "If I am what you say I am," she said slowly, "why would anyone hide it inside a servant girl?" Kaylin's expression darkened slightly. "Because if you were ever found," he said quietly, "the world would break to reach you." The bond surged again, but this time, Elone did not recoil immediately. She just stood there, breathing uneven, looking at him. And somewhere above them, the council finally began to understand that whatever they had come for was no longer something they could simply remove from the palace. It had already chosen where it stood. Elone did not move. Not forward, not back. For the first time since the corridor began collapsing into truth, she simply stayed where she was, as if motion itself might tip the balance into something irreversible. Kaylin watched her closely. The restraint in him was still there, but it was no longer absolute. Something behind it had begun to press through the edges. The council sensed it too. Their leader spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, if what you claim is correct, then protocol demands immediate relocation to the sealed chamber for containment assessment." Ellen's head snapped slightly toward him. "Containment," she repeated. The word tasted like metal. Kaylin's voice cut in immediately. "She will not be contained." The council member did not retreat this time. "Then she will destabilize the palace field if her output continues to rise unchecked." Elone's breath tightened. "My output," she said slowly. Kaylin shifted his stance half a step, placing himself fully between her and the council again. "Enough," he said. The single word dropped the corridor into pressured silence, but Elone was no longer stepping backward into silence. Something inside her had changed. The fear was still there, but it was no longer alone. There was something else now. A pull, a presence she could not fully deny anymore, even if she did not understand it. Her voice came out quieter. "If I walk away from you," she said, eyes fixed on Kaylin, "what happens?" The question shifted everything. Kaylin's gaze tightened slightly. "You cannot walk away from this state," he said. "That is not what I asked." Silence stretched. Then Kaylin answered more precisely. "If you leave proximity to the bond anchor in its current stage," he said, "your body will attempt to stabilize the suppression on its own." Elone's expression tightened. "And that means what?" Kaylin's jaw flexed slightly. "It will hurt," he said simply. The honesty landed harder than any warning. Elone exhaled slowly. The council member stepped forward half a pace again. "This is why relocation is necessary," he said. "We can stabilize her in the northern containment hall until full identification is complete." Kaylin turned his head slightly. The air sharpened immediately. "You will not speak of her as something to stabilize," he said. The council member hesitated. Then what is she? He asked again, more insistently now. If not a classified emergence carrier, if not a bonded anomaly, if not a threat vector, what is she to the realm? Silence followed. All attention turned to Kaelin. Even Elone felt it. The weight of definition. Kaelin looked at her. Not at the council, at her. And for the first time, his voice softened without losing its authority. She is the reason I am still standing here. Elone's breath caught. That answer did not fit any structure she had ever known. It did not categorize her. It positioned her inside him. The bond reacted immediately. Heat surged again through her chest. But this time, she did not recoil. She just pressed her hand there, breathing uneven. Kaelin noticed the shift. Something in his gaze changed slightly. Not surprise. Recognition of progress. The council member tried again. Your Majesty, emotional anchoring is not a substitute for containment protocol. Kaelin's voice dropped. Then your protocol is obsolete. Elone's head lifted slightly. Stop, she said suddenly. Both Kaelin and the council turned toward her. Her voice was steadier now, though still strained. Stop talking about me like I am not here. Silence followed instantly. Kaelin did not interrupt. Neither did the council. Elone took a slow breath. I am not going anywhere because you argue about me like I am a problem to solve, she said. Her gaze shifted briefly to Kaelin. And I am not yours because you feel something you cannot explain. Kaelin's jaw tightened slightly. Elone continued. I want answers, she said. Not claims, not instincts, not prophecies. Answers. The bond pulsed in response, but she held steady. Kaelin stepped forward slightly. Then ask, he said. The simplicity of it unsettled her more than resistance would have. Elone hesitated, then spoke carefully. What am I? Kaelin did not look away. You are a carrier of lunar origin lineage, he said, a bloodline that predates recorded wolf hierarchy. Elone's throat tightened. That is not an answer I can use. Kaelin's voice remained steady. It is the only accurate one. The council member added quietly. Lunar origin carriers were recorded as extinct in the first era following the council formation. Elone's eyes narrowed slightly. Extinct, she repeated. Kaelin corrected immediately. Hidden. The bond pulsed again. Elone winced slightly. I can feel it getting stronger, she said under her breath. Kaelin nodded once. Yes. The council member looked more alert now. That aligns with progressive emergence activation. If unregulated, she will reach full expression state within hours. Elone looked sharply at him. Full expression state. He hesitated. Awakening threshold. Kaelin stepped closer again, voice lower. You will not reach that here, he said. Elone's gaze snapped to him. And where will I reach it? Kaelin did not answer immediately. That silence carried weight. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. Somewhere safe enough that you do not destroy yourself in the process. Elone's breath tightened. I am not destroying myself. Kaelin's gaze held hers. You do not know that yet. The council member spoke carefully. If she is brought to the Northern Hall, Kaelin cut him off immediately. No. The council member stiffened. Your Majesty, you are overriding containment law. Kaelin's voice sharpened. I am correcting it. Silence again. Elone felt the tension pulling in all directions at once. Her chest ached now. Not pain exactly. Pressure. Like something inside her was trying to unfold against resistance. She pressed her hand harder to her collarbone. I am not going anywhere, she said quietly. Kaelin looked at her. His voice softened slightly. You will, he said. A pause. but not because they demand it. Elone looked up at him. Then why? Kalen stepped closer again. This time close enough that the bond flared in response immediately. His voice dropped. Because I will not let you break alone in a corridor that was never meant to hold what you are becoming. Elone's breath stuttered. For a moment, she did not argue, did not push back, just stood there, caught between refusal and something she did not yet have a name for. Above them, the council waited, but for the first time, they were no longer in control of the direction of this moment. Kalen extended his hand slightly, not touching, offering. A choice shaped like inevitability. Come with me, he said quietly, and I will show you what was hidden inside you before the world taught you to fear it. Elone stared at his hand, then at him, and for the first time since the corridor began, she did not answer immediately. The bond pulsed once more, and she did not step back. Elone did not take his hand, but she did not move away either. That single fact shifted the entire corridor again. Kalen noticed immediately. His hand remained extended, steady, but something in his gaze tightened as if he was recalibrating her response rather than forcing one. The council member saw it too. Your Majesty, he said carefully, we are moving beyond regulated protocol. If she refuses relocation, we must initiate restraint procedures before full activation. Elone's head snapped toward him. Restraint, she repeated. The word landed wrong in her body, like something inside her recognized it before she understood it. Kalen's voice cut through instantly. You will not speak another word about restraint. The council member hesitated, then pressed forward. She is escalating. The signature is no longer stable. We can feel it in the air. Elone's breathing tightened. I am standing still, she said sharply. If anything is escalating, it is all of you deciding what I am without asking me. The bond reacted immediately. Heat surged through her chest again, stronger than before, but now it carried something layered underneath. Pressure, awareness, like something inside her was trying to align itself with something outside her control. She staggered slightly. Kalen stepped forward instantly, closing the distance just enough to steady the space between them without touching her. Do not fight it like it is an enemy, he said quietly. Elone's voice cracked slightly. Then what is it? Kalen did not answer immediately. That silence mattered. When he spoke, it was lower. It is recognition. Elone shook her head. I do not recognize anything. You do, he said. Your body does not belong to the story you were given. The council member spoke again, more urgent now. If she reaches threshold in this corridor, the palace warding system will interpret it as external breach. Elone looked at him sharply. What does that mean? Kalen answered instead. It means the palace will attempt to suppress you. Elone's stomach tightened. I do not want to be suppressed. Kalen's gaze sharpened slightly. You are already partially suppressed, he said. That is why it hurts when the bond reacts. The words landed too cleanly, too precisely. Elone's fingers curled at her sides. You keep saying things like, I am two different people, she said. Suppressed, unsuppressed, marked, unmarked. I am one person. Kalen stepped closer again. Now there was almost no space left between them. You are, he said, a pause. But you are not complete in the way your body was designed to be. Elone's breath caught. That is not something you get to say about me. It is not a judgment, he replied. It is observation. The council member added carefully. If her lineage is lunar origin, then suppression would have been necessary to prevent premature awakening. Without it, her output at birth would have destabilized surrounding systems. Elone turned sharply. "Stop talking about output." The council member paused. Kalen's voice dropped immediately. "You will address her as Elone." The council member hesitated, then nodded once. "Elone." He corrected himself carefully. "Your condition is consistent with sealed origin imprinting. The seal appears to be weakening." Elone's throat tightened. "I am not a condition." Kalen looked at her directly. "You are not only what they see," he said. The bond surged again, sharper. Elone inhaled sharply, pressing her hand against her chest. The glow beneath her skin was stronger now, visible even through fabric in faint pulses of silver light. She stared at it, horrified. "What is happening to me?" she whispered. Kalen's voice softened slightly. "You are being unmade from what they built you into," he said. Elone's eyes lifted to him. "That does not sound like something I survive." "It is," he said. A pause. "If you do not resist blindly." The council member stepped forward slightly again. "Your Majesty, the northern chamber is still the safest controlled environment for stabilization." Kalen did not look at him this time. His attention stayed fully on Elone. "No chamber will hold her," he said quietly. Elone's voice was barely steady. "Then where do you think I go?" Kalen's gaze held hers. "Somewhere away from people who will try to define you before you learn what you are." The bond pulsed again. But this time, Elone did not bend under it. She steadied her breathing, and for the first time, she spoke without immediate defiance or agreement. "If I go with you," she said slowly, "I want truth." Kalen nodded once. "You will have it. Not pieces," she added. "Not warnings, not half sentences." His gaze did not waver. "All of it," he said. The council member looked between them. "This is not sanctioned," he said. Kalen finally turned his head slightly toward him. The corridor temperature dropped. "Then sanction it later," he said. Elone's breath tightened again. "This is not something you decide without me," she said. Kalen looked back at her immediately. "You are deciding?" he corrected. A pause. "You are choosing whether you step into knowledge or remain in ignorance while your body forces the decision later." Elone's fingers curled slightly. "That is not much of a choice. It is the only honest one you have ever been given." Silence. Longer this time. Elone looked at his hand again. Still extended. Still waiting. Not pulling her. Not forcing her. Just there. She swallowed. The bond pulsed again, softer this time, almost like a steady rhythm instead of a surge. Her breathing slowed slightly without her permission. The council member spoke quietly. "If she comes with you, protocol requires escort confirmation." Kalen did not look away from Elone. "No escort," he said. The council member frowned. "That is not permitted." Kalen's voice sharpened slightly. "Then change what is permitted." Elone looked between them, then down at the faint light under her skin again, then back at Kalen. Her voice came out quieter than before. "If I come," she said, "I do not want chains." Kalen's gaze softened fractionally. "There will be no chains," he said. A pause. "Only truth." Elone held his gaze for a long moment. Then slowly, she lifted her hand, not fully trusting, not fully surrendering, but moving, and placed it in his. Kalen closed his fingers around hers the moment she placed her hand in his. The bond responded instantly, a sharp pulse moving through both of them, like something long divided had finally met its counterpart. Elone inhaled sharply as her knees nearly gave way. Kalen steadied her without restraint. adjusting his stance so she could remain upright without being held captive. The council member stepped forward, voice tight. Your Majesty, this is unauthorized activation confirmation, if she is fully recognized in a public corridor. She is already recognized, Kalen said. Elone looked up at him, breath uneven. What does that mean? It means there is no version of you that does not change what I am? The bond shifted again, no longer chaotic, but aligning, like fractured pieces settling into place. Silver light flickered beneath her skin, steadying instead of flaring. The council member grew more urgent. Then she must be moved immediately to prevent escalation. No, Kalen said. The single word silenced the corridor. Elone felt the authority in it, not directed at her, but protecting her presence within it. You keep saying, I am not what they think I am, she said. You are not. Then what am I? Kalen stepped closer. You are what the moon refused to let the world forget. Her throat tightened. That does not explain anything. It explains everything, he said. It just does not comfort you yet. Her grip tightened slightly around his hand, and the bond responded in a steady pulse, no longer erratic. What happens now? She asked. Now you stop being hidden. The council member exhaled sharply. That is not survivable politically. It is not meant to be political, Kalen said. Elone's voice lowered. Then what is it meant to be? Truth, he said, and choice. I already chose, she whispered. You chose contact, Kalen said, not awareness. Her breathing slowed as something shifted inside her perception, like fog lifting from a buried chamber of memory. Cold stone, lifting hands, a voice saying, protect her. Her eyes widened slightly. I am seeing things that do not belong to me. They do, Kalen said. They were buried inside you. Silver light strengthened beneath her skin, steady now. I do not feel like I am breaking, she said. You are not, he replied. You are becoming whole. A distant resonance echoed through the palace wards. The council member stepped back. That is impossible. It is already happening, Kalen said. Elone looked at the light along her arms, then back at him. I am ready, she said quietly. Kalen nodded once. Come. And this time, she did.